Good morning, everyone. This is Group 3, and we will be presenting the pathology of hemorrhagic shock. The objectives of this presentation are: number 1, identify the etiology of hemorrhagic shock. Number 2, explain the pathogenesis of hemorrhagic shock. Number 3, answer the question, what are the biochemical changes in the organ? Number 4, the outcome of hemorrhagic shock. First, the etiology of hemorrhagic shock. Hemorrhagic shock is a type of hypovolemic shock wherein there is a rapid reduction of intravascular blood volume that leads to an insufficient oxygen delivery at the cellular level. The primary cause of this type of shock is blood loss from internal and external sources. Examples are traumatic injury, postpartum and gastrointestinal hemorrhage, and rupture of an aneurysm. Here are common causes of hemorrhagic shock. The first picture is an example of a severe burn. As you can see, a burn as severe as this leads to hypovolemia and edema. For the second picture, we have a deep cut as an example. A deep cut damages the blood vessels, thus resulting to hemorrhagic shock. Next, we have gunshot wound. This is similar to a deep cut as it goes deep into the blood vessels, also resulting in hemorrhagic shock. For numbers 4 and 8, we have traumatic injury. It is one of the most common causes of hemorrhagic shock due to the inadequate oxygen delivery to tissues. Picture number 5 shows amputation. This is the most damaging injury because it removes a big part of the body. For numbers 6 and 7, these are examples of bleeding in the internal parts of the body. We have gastrointestinal bleeding and rupture of aneurysm.
Thank you so much, Zara, for the first part of the presentation. Now let's move on to the pathogenesis of hemorrhagic shock. Reduced tissue perfusion, a condition known as hemorrhagic shock, is a sign of inadequate nutrient and oxygen delivery necessary for cellular function. Every time the demand for cellular oxygen exceeds the supply, the cell and organism go into shock. When the injured part of the body is unable to regenerate itself, it will lead to severe bleeding. Blood carries oxygen, so when the substances that the blood is carrying will begin to disappear quickly and cause insufficient blood flow that the body needs, it will eventually lead to organs shutting down. When the heart is unable to supply the necessary amount of blood that the body needs, blood pressure will also drop. The body's temperature will deteriorate quickly and the body will exhibit signs of shock. Blood loss can lead to coagulopathy, hemodynamic instability, decreased oxygen delivery, decreased tissue perfusion, and cellular hypoxia. At the microcirculatory level, the early bleeding response is mostly mediated by the neuroendocrine system. Some injuries in hemorrhagic shock may cause release of hormones and other inflammatory mediators such as renin, angiotensin, vasopressin, antidiuretic hormone, growth hormone, glucagon, cortisol, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. So for better understanding with the words that I've explained earlier, here is the diagram explaining the process of hemorrhagic shock. So you can see here, for the first one, there is an injury and it goes to severe bleeding, then insufficient blood flow, and with that their blood pressure drops, body temperature deterioration, and it will lead to shock, and eventually it will lead to organ failure. Now let's move on to the last part of this presentation, which is the outcome. Hemorrhagic shock is when tissue perfusion is decreased due to an insufficient supply of oxygenated blood, resulting in anaerobic metabolism, acidosis, and negative changes in cell function. The symptoms may not occur quickly, and there will be noticeable external hemorrhaging. On the other hand, internal hemorrhaging may be challenging to detect until signs of shock occur. A hemorrhagic shock is frequently associated with kidney failure, other organ damage, and mortality. As a result of restricted circulation to the limbs, specific individuals may develop gangrene. This infection might lead to amputation of the afflicted legs. The outcome will be determined by the amount of blood loss and the type of damage. So we know from the previous lesson mentioned by Doc, when there is a development of gangrene, the only thing that you can do is through amputation. So that was it for our presentation regarding hemorrhagic shock, specifically presented by the Group 3. This would not be possible without the help of each members of the group. That is all, and have a good day.